Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamstra. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamstra. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Mantrakalpa Tarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, welcome to this Nectar of Devotion study. So, we'll do a little bit of review of last week. So, last week we discussed that the only qualification to start devotional service is having some attraction. And this attraction to do devotional service comes from the mercy of a pure devotee. So to start, it requires some attraction. And when we gain some attraction for bhakti, that inspires us to perform bhakti. And by practicing bhakti, one increases their attraction. And with more attraction, one does more bhakti. And with more bhakti, one has more attraction. And this cycle continues. And it is a very sweet cycle, propelling us to the realm of pure devotional service. So we'll talk a little bit today about the rarity of pure devotional service. But know that it just comes from this attraction to do rendering service, to more attraction to rendering service. And it is by the mercy of a pure devotee that one becomes inspired to begin devotional service. And so we're very fortunate to have come into contact with such wonderful pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, to become inspired in the practice of devotional service. And so then our qualification to make progress, to advance in this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, again, we're in the midst of this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti section, is the maturity of our faith and our knowledge of scriptures. So faith, when we say faith in the objective, it means to be convinced that the only goal of life is to only please Krishna, emphasizing only. Meaning one has one fixed perspective, objective, and one fixed goal. Certainly other activities may enter the realm of one's day-to-day requirements and necessities, but the ultimate goal is one. And so to the extent we have faith in that objective, it establishes our qualification. Now, again, faith in that objective then leads to our action in that objective. Right? So I can't say, oh yeah, I know the only goal of my life is to please Krishna, but then I perform so many other mundane activities. Right? So faith should lead to action. And the second qualification is the second increase in our qualification is this knowledge. The more we learn from Shastra, the more we will increase our qualification. And again, how does this increase? By the association of pure devotees. With the mercy of Guru, one can increase their faith and increase their knowledge in Shastra. And that is why Guru guides one in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to develop faith in this objective and to understand Shastra so that one can progress on the path of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And ultimately, the qualification to perform, to practice pure devotional service is one must be free from the bodily concept of life. This freedom from bodily concept of life means that we have realized that no more material desires. As soon as I have a material desire, it means I have some bodily conception. I'm trying to satisfy the body, even though I should know I am not this body. So the symptom of being free from the bodily conception of life is no more material desires. Okay? And the only endeavor is to reconnect the spirit soul back with its eternal Father. So the qualification to be in pure devotional service is the freedom from this bodily concept. The qualification to advance in pure devotional service is the degree of my faith and the depth of my knowledge. And the qualification to start it all is just some attraction. So we're very fortunate that Krishna gives us this formula that we can start even if we are not yet pure. So we'll talk about that now with the obstacles in pure devotional service. So a little bit of a review from last week, but also some new material we'll present. So this two obstacles that are present, bhukti and mukti. And they are obstacles in devotional service. Now, very, very important that one can start devotional service with bhukti, with material desires. But one cannot even start devotional service with particularly the aspect of mukti, the sayujya mukti, the desire to become one with God, to become one with Krishna. One cannot even start. Right? So the concept of a devotee, when we say one is a devotee, it's a very high standard actually, and Borijan Prabhu gives this guidance in his class. Hopefully everyone is enjoying those classes, where he says that when one is free of all material desires, then one can be called actually a devotee. So to be a devotee is very high. You know, one thinks themselves to be aspiring to be a devotee. I am trying to become a devotee. One sees all around them devotees. Does not think, oh, they are also aspiring. No. One treats others around as a devotee, but one's internal consciousness, I'm still trying to become free from all of the different anarthas and desires that I have. And it is by the mercy of Guru that we can come to the realm of pure devotional service. Otherwise, we have no hope. We're stuck. So, it is by the mercy of Guru only that we can come to the realm of pure devotional service. So, in order to become pure, we must render devotional service. And render devotional service must be pure. And it is only by the mercy of Guru that we can enter this realm. Right? So, that is the understanding of where we are. Now, Rupa Goswami has explained that these bhukti and mukti, they haunt one like ghosts. We read this verse last week, but we'll read it again just for emphasis and statement. That Rupa Goswami has therefore compared possessing this bhukti and mukti, liberation, desires with being influenced by the black art of which, in both cases, one is in trouble. One is in trouble. Bhukti means in material enjoyment. And mukti means to become freed from the material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. These desires are compared to being haunted by ghosts and witches, because while these aspirations for material enjoyment or spiritual oneness with Supreme remain, no one can relish the actual transcendental taste of devotional service. So one haunted by a ghost is forced to act. That is the understanding we have. One is forced to act, right? Now, the interesting piece here now is, why is bhukti an obstacle? The material desires are an obstacle because one cannot taste the sweetness of pure devotional service. Remember, in the characteristics of pure devotional service, even in the sadhana bhakti stage, there is this experience of great bliss and happiness. But the material desires, they block the taste. So when material desires are mixed with devotional service, the real rasa of bhakti is not relishable. And we can understand it because bhakti, serving the Supreme Lord, and material life, serving my body, are diametrically opposed. They are completely opposite consciousness. So it is like mixing salt and sugar. Salt and sugar have completely opposite characteristics. One is sweet and one has a strong taste, or I can say salty taste in its definition. Right? So when I mix sugar with salt and I eat it, I'll not get the pure sweet taste because it's mixed with some salt. So like that, when our devotional service is mixed with these material desires, the full taste will not come. Yes, there will be some relishable sweetness in devotional life, but it is not as strong. Right? And so we get some clue into this. We may not be experiencing the taste of the sweetness. I'm hearing, but I'm not relishing. I'm reading, but I'm not relishing. I'm chanting, but not relishing. We can understand there is some salt in our bhakti. What is that salt? Some material desires are there. And so we can, work to try to rid ourselves of those material desires. And I wanted to read one of the verses, from Bharat Maharaj, because we see the great kings of past. They gave up all their opulent position. They were living in royal palaces, giant treasuries, and wonderful foods, surrounded by queens and servants. But they were so anxious to give it all up and live a life in the forest, in Vanaprastha ashram, living on roots and berries, living in tree bark, sleeping on the ground. They were not attached. They had no material desires. Right? And in Parikshit Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavatam, the great soul, King Bharat, was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for children, society, family, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. So you can see this detached mood in which the pure devotee is. They may be in the midst of opulences. They may be performing service using those opulences. But one is not attached because the rasa of bhakti does not come. And we'll see in these very beautiful prayers offered in chapter 4 many such similar statements. Now talking about mukti, and specifically the sayujya mukti. There are 5 types of liberation. This sayujya mukti, this desire to become one with Krishna, merging into Krishna, this desire is extraordinarily dangerous. Much, much more dangerous than bhukti. So of the 2 obstacles, in bhukti at least one can still start bhakti. But with mukti, this sayujya mukti specifically, one cannot even start bhakti. Because in bhakti it means to render service to someone. Service is rendered to a person. And if I have a desire to merge, then it means that there is no person. And I'm not trying to serve that person, I'm trying to become that person. Right? So never in the heart will there be a development of love for service and love for Krishna. Just want to merge. And thus one cannot even begin devotional service. And that is why this is an even greater obstacle. At least with bhakti, yes, I have some material desires, but I'm developing my taste to render service to Krishna. I don't have the desire to merge into Krishna, to become God. So at least I can continue to purify. But when mukti, the sayuja mukti desire is present, it's very dangerous. One cannot even start. And our Shastras continue to explain that this mukti, specifically the other 4 types, that comes automatically to the devotee. So it is not that one misses out on that opportunity. But by rendering devotional service, it automatically comes. And as we'll see in the title of the chapter, devotional service surpasses even that. That one not only automatically gets that, but they get so much more. So thus, a devotee doesn't even desire it. Because it comes automatically. You don't have to desire, oh, I hope there's oxygen today. It comes automatically. So one doesn't even desire it. Like that, a devotee is so much relishing bhakti that one doesn't even desire. No, it comes automatically. And the happiness from bhakti, as we said in explaining these characteristics, is so far superior to the happiness from mukti, it never becomes a desire, right? This moksha lagu tukrit, so far superior, it doesn't even register. So both mukti and bhakti, they make us ineligible to practice pure devotional service, because to be pure we must be anabhilashi sunyam and jnana kamadi anavratam. So both bhakti and mukti must be gone. These obstacles must be removed. But even to enter bhakti, with bhakti, the material desires one can at least start. But with mukti, the desire for this liberation, one cannot even begin devotional service. So these are the 2 obstacles that we discussed last week, and a little bit more on it. So now, Srila Prabhupada presents twice in this chapter 4 the 5 types of liberation. So we'll discuss those 5 types of liberation. But we should understand one thing, that we speak about becoming an insignificant servant. And there is one fact that we must reconcile and get extreme comfort with. And that is, brace yourselves, prepare. All the top positions within Goloka Vrindavan are already filled. We are one of billions and billions and billions, an unlimited number of insignificant servants. No matter how much we perfect and purify, the position of Mother Yashoda is already taken. The position of the intimate gopis already taken. Of the eternal cowherd boys taken. The concept of this can be sometimes very, very difficult for us to accept. It requires great humility. And it requires absolute freedom from even the desire of position. Oh, I want to be this position with Krishna. One must have only one desire. And what is that desire? Anukulyena. A favorable desire to please Krishna. So, the pure devotee doesn't have even a desire to be in a specific position. Oh, I want to be a very intimate associate. The only desire is to please Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us this mood by praying to be das anudas anudas anudas. He was not desiring to have intimate association. He wanted to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And how this desire manifests is by having knowledge and faith. That when one has only the desire to please Krishna, one is willing to even take a very backseat position if that is what pleases Krishna. One thinks, oh, this person knows how to please Krishna better than I. Because my goal is to please Krishna, let me support this person in serving Krishna because they know better than me. Instead of elbowing our way in to say, let me do, we find who can do better than me. And let me support them in pleasing Krishna. Because in that way, Krishna will be pleased even further. This is the mood of a pure devotee. And when one serves in this pure mood, actually then the sweetness from that service comes. We may be in the front of the line serving, but if our mood is for position and not for pleasure of Krishna, again this rasa will not come. And this is the sweetness of following in the footsteps of our previous acharyas. They show us how to bring out this mood. Because at first blush, that statement I made can be very demoralizing. Wait a minute, all the top positions have been taken? It is not the least bit demoralizing. It is the most encouraging because one can become the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of these topmost devotees for the goal of pleasing Krishna. So these desires, even this mukti desires, can be very subtle. Even desire for position can manifest. And we want to rid ourselves of those. Okay? So the 5 types of liberation, they are, one is to achieve the same residence on the same planet, to achieve a similar form, the same type of body, to have enjoy the same opulences with Krishna. And 4, to have the very personal association. So these are 4 types of liberation that are awarded, particularly in the Vaikuntha Loka planets. And the 5th, and I put it in red because we're being guided very carefully, that this is the Sayujya Mukti, to become one with Krishna. This is very, very dangerous. The first 4 can be accepted by devotees. In the realm of Vaikuntha Loka, these are accepted by devotees. But the 5th, this Sayujya Mukti, that is never accepted by devotees because one loses the opportunity to render service. Right? So, why devotees generally are not wanting this merging? Because they can't experience the sweetness of hearing and chanting about the Lord. If I have no form, I cannot hear and chant about the Lord. I can't render service, which brings about this great experience. So the pleasure the devotee experiences is so high and so sweet that one actually becomes fearful of this concept of merging. No, I don't want to lose this opportunity to render devotional service. Right? So one only wants the opportunity to serve because that is what is giving them value, experience. And that is why devotees become fearless. Because they only fear one has is of losing something that they value. But a devotee, the only thing they value is the opportunity to serve. So if they have some fear, it's let me not lose my opportunity to serve. I'm not worried about losing my money in my bank account or my home or even my body. So Prithu Maharaj very nicely is quoted in this chapter 4. I just wanted to read this. He prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, if after taking liberation I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship, glories chanted by pure devotees, from the core of their heart in praise of your lotus feet, and if I have no other chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation or this so-called spiritual emancipation. I simply pray, always pray to your Lordship, that you give me millions of tongues and millions of ears, so that I can constantly chant and hear your transcendental glories. This is such a sweet, beautiful prayer by Prithu Maharaj. Having been attracted, this is the consciousness develops. If I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, of hearing from the pure devotees, then I don't want anything, even Vaikuntha. Of course, in Vaikuntha, one has a chance to hear unlimitedly about the glories of the Lord. But the consciousness should be very clear. My desire is so that I can hear and chant. And Prithu Maharaj explains this very, very nicely. I was going to read one more, but maybe I'll read this a little bit later. So this concept is very clear. And we should remember that Mukti, the liberation, is just freedom, the cessation from birth and death, old age and disease. But like a prisoner, yes, a prisoner has only one desire, which is to get free. But then what? Freedom itself is not the source of happiness. It is the activity in a free state that gives happiness. If I become free from the prison life, but I am just sitting inert, doing nothing, I'll not be happy. Those who are free from prisoners, who are not prisoners, they're not desiring to be free. They're desiring some activity that will give them happiness. So, the desire to be liberated, to become free from birth and death, old age and disease, that is like a prisoner just wanting to be free. But that won't give happiness. What gives happiness is the activity in the free state. And so that activity that gives happiness is devotional service, is bhakti. Right? So the absence of misery, the absence of being shackled, won't give happiness. It is the presence of devotional service. So our desire, our goal must be very clear. And so Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami are guiding us that to have what desire is very, very important. We know we don't want bhukti, material desires. We don't want mukti, even liberation desires. So then what desires should we have? Right? So this whole chapter 4 is dedicated to showing us what desires to have. And beautiful verse after verses are given. Right? So one more discussion before we get into some of these verses is these anarthas. These anarthas are what prevent our attraction to Krishna. They are the material desires, like that salt mixed with sugar. The weakness of the heart, the lack of understanding, offenses. These are anarthas, 4 types of anarthas that prevent our attraction. And so what should we do? We must be able to see them. We must find them within the heart and then remove them. And one of the sure signs that we have received the mercy of Krishna is that we begin to see the anarthas in the heart. In this illustration, this slightly, larger gentleman is looking in the mirror, but is not seeing himself. He is seeing a wishful image. When Krishna really bestows his mercy upon us, he shows us our anarthas. Our faults become visible to us. Not to, make us depressed, but to help us find them so that we may then take them out. And the result of seeing our anarthas is also that we become humble. We see, wow, I still have some work to do. Yes, I've been doing this for some time. I've been making progress. But by seeing our anarthas, we can become humble. And when we are humble, tunadapi sunichena tarodapi shishna mani namanadena kirtanya sadahiri, then one can chant constantly. Kirtaniya Sadahari. So we should beg Krishna, show me my anarthas. Show me where I'm falling short. That is the sign of Krishna's mercy. And so if someone, is guiding you in the practice of devotional service and they help show you your anarthas, Prabhuji, Mataji, this is showing some things. We should be grateful. We should be happy. But instead, often, because of ego, we become defensive, aggressive, angry. We run away. Right? It is not our job to find anarthas in others. It is our job to find anarthas in ourselves only. Krishna will reveal them to us. He doesn't need us to reveal someone else's anarthas. But instead, we sometimes want to look externally. And I've heard in one lecture that the faults we see in others are simply a reflection of what exists within our own heart. When we see faults in others, we are actually looking at a mirror, not looking at someone else. So that we can pray to Krishna to help us find these anarthas, these subtle desires even, and we can remove them, right? Because these verses in chapter 4 that are guiding us to pull out the weeds that exist in the garden of the heart, right? The desire for bhukti and mukti, they are these anarthas. And hearing the verses in chapter 4, they help us cleanse the heart. They help us clear the heart. We have to pull them out. We know weeds in a garden, if you don't take the weeds out, they will overtake the desired crop. The desired crop in our heart is the bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion. So to let the creeper of devotion prosper, we must remove the weeds and water the creeper by the chanting and hearing. And this is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This whole metaphor, this analogy is given of watering the garden, removing the weeds. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his discussion in Madhya Lila very beautifully gives this. If you have not read it, please read it. So the prayers that we see in chapter 4, they are presented to us by Rupa Goswami in hoping to inspire the reader as to why pure devotional service is so far superior from bhukti, any material desires, and even mukti, the desire for liberation. So far superior that we can become inspired to reject both of these, which are obstacles on a devotional service. So in chapter 3, he presented the obstacles, and now in chapter 4, he's presenting very beautiful prayers to help inspire us to desire to remove these obstacles by showing vividly that there is something even better to obtain than some material boons or even liberation. There's something so much better, right? And we know, like a child desires for very foolish things. Oh, I just want chocolate, or I just want to play. When an adult knows there's even more one can get. Well, like that, in our childish state of devotional life, we may desire some simple things like a long life, or even living in the realm of Krishna. But there is even something better to desire for. And that is what these verses are put together for. So we can work to, pull the weeds of the garden, weeds in the garden. These anarthas, this bhukti and mukti from the heart. Right? And so Srila Rupa Goswami is showing us in these verses that it is the devotional service that is the tool. It is bhakti itself that will rip out these weeds. Great devotees we see in this chapter. They had so many mystical powers. They were ruling the entire planet. Huge amounts of wealth like Bharat Maharaj. Great intelligence. Yet they were absolutely detached from all of it. Not one material desire. They were anya bilashita shunyam. Full of God. even the lesser desires, they had it. But even the higher desires, even the spiritual desires of liberation, gone. Even the aspect of going to Vaikuntha, gone. No desires. So I'll read a couple of verses that illustrate this. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. My dear Uddhav, the devotees have completely taken shelter of my service, are so steadfast in devotional service that they have no other desire, even if they are offered the 4 kinds of spiritual opulences. I'll just pause here. These 4 kinds of spiritual opulences are the first 4 types of liberation we discussed a couple slides ago. This idea of living on Krishna's planet, or specifically Lord Narayan's planet, having the same form, having the opulences, like that. Krishna is saying, even if they are offered the 4 kinds of opulences, they will refuse to accept them. So what to speak of desiring anything within the material world? This is the potency of pure devotional service. Okay? I'll read a couple more. This is Prahlada Maharaja's prayers. In the higher Shirsha Pancharatra, after Nrsingadev wanted to give benedictions to Prahlada Maharaj did not accept any material benediction and simply asked the favor of the Lord to remain his eternal devotee. In this connection, Prahlada Maharaj cited the example of Hanuman, the eternal servitor of Lord Ramachandra, who always sets an example by never asking any material favor from the Lord. He always remained engaged in the Lord's service. That is the ideal character of Hanuman, for which he is still worshipped by all devotees. Prahlada Maharaj also offered his respectful obeisances to Hanuman. There is a well-known verse spoken by Hanuman in which he says, "My dear Lord, if you like, you can give me salvation from this material existence, or the privilege of merging into your existence. But I do not wish any of these things. I do not want anything which diminishes my relationship with you as servant to master, even after liberation." In a similar passage in Narada Pancharatra, it is said, "My dear Lord, I do not wish for any perfectional stage by performing the ritualistic religious ceremonies, or by economic development, or by sense gratification, or liberation. I simply pray that you grant me the favor of keeping me under your lotus feet. I do not wish any kind of liberation, such as Salokya, to reside on your planet, or Sarupya, to have the same bodily features as you. I simply pray for your favor that I may always be engaged in your loving service." So over and over and over again in this chapter, we see these prayers being offered by great devotees who have achieved great knowledge. Our knowledge is still developing. So we can try to follow in their footsteps and inquire, wow, they are not even desiring to reside on the same planet in Vaikuntha? How that can be? There must be something extraordinary from pure devotional service. Okay? So we try to follow in the footsteps. Right? Dova Mangala Thakur, he plucked out his eyes so that he would no longer be tempted by material desires. I don't recommend, please do not follow in the footsteps by imitating. But we can follow by understanding how one should protect themselves from the temptation of material desires, and how the pure devotee doesn't even desire billions of dollars or even living in the Vaikuntha planets. What one desires? The opportunity to render service. And why one desires that? Because the rasa, the happiness from rendering service, is so much higher than even living in one of the Vaikuntha planets. So that is the beauty of these different verses we see in this chapter. We may wonder why it's a chapter full of verses. But these verses are meant to inspire a certain consciousness. And it has inspired this consciousness to remove the bhukti and mukti from our heart. Because Rupa Goswami wants us to become free from these obstacles, the ghosts of bhukti and mukti, so that we may also enjoy this pure devotional service. And the beauty of it all is that by doing bhakti, these desires will be removed. Sarva pari vimirmiktam tatpanetmana nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. That by bhakti, devotional service, by engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality Godhead, the master of all senses, when the soul renders service, there are two side effects. One is freed from material designations. This bodily conception, one becomes freed from it. And two, the senses become purified. So how this happens? Just stay in devotional service. Krishna is so attractive that he will attract us to him. We'll lose our taste for all these other mundane things by the practice of devotional service. So we should make note of our material desires and pray for them to be removed. Pray for the vision to see the weeds and the strength to be able to pull them out. Oh Krishna, I'm so addicted to this activity, I cannot give up such and such. I know it is foolish. Please help me. If we pray to Krishna in this way, then he will help us remove them. But we must know what is the harm in these material desires. And now we know by the blessing of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada. Right? So, pray to the Lord and be willing to take to some austerity. Yeah? Krishna will test us. But when he sees that we are willing to take some austerity in renouncing these desires, then he will reciprocate in grand ways. Right? So, if we had a taste for pure devotional service, everything would be easy. Right? So, the fear for us in giving up our material desires is I'm going to exchange it with something lesser. But rest assured, by seeing the wisdom of these great devotees, we are not going to give up anything lesser. In fact, we are going to gain something far superior to even the opulences, the four kinds of spiritual opulences Krishna is saying. Okay? Even if they are offered those, they refuse to accept them. Who would refuse to live in the Vaikuntha planet unless they had something that was even better than that? How would one refuse that? So that is the hope. Again, I know I'm repeating myself over and over again, but the hope is that we'll take to this. I'll read a few more verses. This verse from Gajendra. My dear Lord, I have no experience of the transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service, and therefore I have asked you for some favor. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires and are always merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and as such are always satisfied by simply glorifying your auspicious characteristics. For them, there is nothing else to aspire to or pray for. This may be our position. We may have some desires because we haven't experienced the bliss, but we know the great devotees have. Okay, so we'll conclude here with just speaking a little bit about Krishna and Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada ends the chapter 4 with this discussion around, the many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Lord. One who is attracted to the original form of the Lord, Krishna in Vrindavan, is considered to be the foremost. So that is a statement Srila Prabhupada makes at the bottom of page 45. So why this is the case, right? So Krishna is the original Supreme Personality. Right? He is Purushottama, as he establishes in chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. He is the Anadi Adir Govinda. He is the source of all. And so, because he is a source of all, he possesses certain things that even Narayan or other spiritual entities don't have. They're very great. But Krishna has even 4 additional features. And these 4 unique features are his flute, his Vena Madhurya, his Lila Madhurya, his Bhakta Madhurya, and his Rupa Madhurya. The flute, the sweet sounds of the flute, only Krishna has. The pastimes of Krishna are so unique and captivating. They are unique in how they captivate the devotee. His devotees are so sweet, and the interaction between devotee and Krishna are so sweet and unique. And his beauty is beyond compare. And so Krishna possesses these four qualities that inspire one to perform great devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, and this is very important at the end of 45 and into 46. So those who are in the four liberated states may still be going through different stages of existence. In the beginning, they may want the opulences of Krishna, but at the mature stage, the dormant love for Krishna exhibited in Vrindavan becomes prominent in their hearts. As such, the pure devotee never accepts the liberation of Sayuja to become one with the Supreme, and though sometimes they may accept as favorable the other four liberated states. So the point that Srila Prabhupada is making here is that one in their progress may come to the one of the four states of liberation, but one may continue to progress. That means there's something even beyond that. And what is beyond that? That is Krishna in Vrindavan. That is Krishna in his eternal home. That is the foremost, as Srila Prabhupada said. Is considered to be the foremost first-class devotee, one who aspires to render service to Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan. That is his eternal abode. And there, the devotees enjoy with Krishna, not even understanding he is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. They just know he is this beautiful, all-loving personality. And thus the pastimes are not tinged with even awe and reverence. It is on a very intimate level. We'll discuss more of this later in discussing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. But just a little bit of discussion on the end of this chapter 4, in which Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the devotee who may enter the realm of one of the four types of liberation, but continue to mature their consciousness. When we say mature their consciousness, it means there's something even further to aspire for. And that ultimate end is rendering pure devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan to Lord Krishna. As das anudas 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 anudas, knowing, yes, all the top positions are taken, but my only desire is to please Krishna. I don't want the top position. I want the opportunity to please and serve Krishna. So this is the desire Srila Rupa Goswami is trying to bring out in our consciousness. We are going to have some desire. The soul is active, desires will be there. But to rid ourselves of the mukti, material desires, to rid ourselves of the liberation desires, mukti, and to bring about the desire for pure devotional service. That is what Rupa Goswami is trying to help us achieve, so that we may achieve the greatest of all rasa, the greatest of all happiness and bliss, as these great devotees are describing. We only read a few of the verses in chapter 4, but please read them over and over and over again. They are so inspiring in our consciousness. Okay? So we'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda ki. Any questions or discussion we can have?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharma Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
I had a couple of questions. First question was, so what we are understanding then is that the liberation that you mentioned, those four kinds of liberation, which lead to a person going to Vaikuntha, so that is also just only devotional service mixed with some material desires? Even when one person is going for Vaikuntha, then also that's not pure devotional service?
No. Vaikuntha Lok is the realm of pure devotional service. It is pure, but it is in a different mood of purity. That we'll explain that a little bit more detail towards the end of this course. But it is still in the realm of pure devotional service. But one is initially motivated by these desires. But in Vaikuntha Loka, there are also pure devotees, and that is why one can continue to make further progress. But it is within the realm of pure devotional service.
Okay, all right. Then as another question which was actually a part of the homework which was given, that was like, where is one prohibited from reaching if one desires one of the four types of liberation that are sometimes accepted by devotees? So here they're not talking about merging one with the Brahman, because they're talking about only the four types of liberation. I'm thinking that the fifth liberation was the one which was merging with the Brahman. So they are asking which one is prohibited from reaching if one desires one of the four. Out of the four types, so all the four ones are the relating to Vaikuntha Lok only, right? So so I'm not really understanding this question.
Yeah, let me read the question more clearly, and I'll post a message in WhatsApp on that one, okay?
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, can you give a little bit explanation on the four type of those liberation, Prabhu?
Yeah, so I'll just go to that slide first. So this is again, there are 5 types of mukti, and of those, 4 can be accepted within the realm of devotional service, and 1 cannot. So, and so when one reaches Vaikuntha, there are different types of positions one can achieve. One can achieve, one of the Vaikuntha planets, residence within the planet. One achieves a form that is very similar to Narayan. So in Vaikuntha, the liberated souls possess a 4-armed form as well, similar to that of Narayan. So one achieves this, very beautiful, powerful form that's very similar. One enjoys or is in the midst of also great opulences. So the worship of Narayan is in the mood of opulence. And so one can enjoy with Krishna, with Narayan, these wonderful opulences. And then one can attain very close or intimate association. It's still with awe and reverence. If you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you'll see, one is fanning Krishna. So it's very close and personal association. But it is not like the intimacy of association that exists in Vrindavan, where no one is fanning Krishna in Vrindavan. What they're doing, they're playing with him. And the picture I had up earlier, showed the cowherd boys feeding Krishna a weed in a joke. They're joking with Krishna like that. So, so these are the 4 types of liberation, mukti, that brings one to Vaikuntha, that are accepted by devotees, in the realm of devotees. But the devotees, as they mature, that was the point Srila Prabhupada was making, will even aspire towards an even higher realm. And that is Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So that is like the ultimate destination. It's okay?
Yeah, Prabhu. Like, achieving the same type of body means what?
The same type of form. So not achieving the same body, that's not merging, but the same similar type of form. So again, that one has a 4-armed form. So one may have a desire, that I'd like a 4-armed form like Narayan. Well, that is available in the Vaikuntha planet. The liberated souls, they actually have very similar features to Narayan, to Lord Vishnu, in terms of look and appearance. Very beautiful features. So that is that type of liberation.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah. And Prabhu, like, who will desire to get this Sayajya Mukti? What kind of people desire?
Well, I think you asked that question in the mindset of having some knowledge. Yeah, who would desire to just float in the Brahman effulgence when you could live on a very opulent planet, right, and actually do something? It's a very good question. So who would desire it is one who doesn't know, one who doesn't have knowledge, So that is one type of person who would desire it. Oh, merging into Brahman, that sounds like good compared to living in Troy, Michigan. But if one doesn't know, well, wait a minute. You can even live in a Vaikuntha planet and have great opulences and royal palaces. Well, certainly, oh, that's better than merging into Brahman. Okay, let me aspire for that. Right? So one may aspire for it out of not knowing what is there. Right? We call that relative knowledge. I know at least what's better than what I have, but I don't have absolute knowledge. Absolute means I know everything that is available, then I choose. The second type of person that desires this is the most difficult and we should avoid completely. So the first type is innocent, out of ignorance desiring, but the second is desiring out of envy of Krishna. So because they don't want to accept that Krishna exists in Vaikuntha as Vishnu, as Krishna existing in Goloka Vrindavan as Krishna, they say that no, there is no form of Krishna. Everything is impersonal. There is only impersonal. So the only realm I can enter is impersonal. And the reason I want to believe that is so that I can fulfill my desire to become God. So one desires this out of the desire to become God. One has envy of God. Why he has to be there? I want to be God. And that is very, very dangerous. And that is the Mayavadi philosophy. So one who denies the existence of Vishnu and Krishna is the Mayavad philosopher who denies it doesn't exist. And they want to merge into Sayuja knowing that to be, or thinking that to be the ultimate realm. So the difference is the first person is innocent. They don't know that Vishnu and Krishna exist because their knowledge is yet developing. They can be saved and continue to progress. But one who denies, who says, no, actually Krishna doesn't exist, that is a very dangerous position because now you have developed envy of Krishna. And ultimately you will fall and you will suffer the consequences. So those are the two types of persons who desire it. One innocently and one out of having envy.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. And the reason I made that distinction is we should understand most people who have this impersonal desire, it is a very dangerous position, this Mayavadi philosophy. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu guided us so carefully to avoid it. Because it's very dangerous. But there are some small realm that are innocently not knowing. So we can help them know. Okay? Anything else?
But can we not think, Prabhuji, sorry, if Prabhuji is done with his question.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm done, Mataji.
So, but can we not think that the ones who are, if you are saying the most dangerous, they could be also misinformed. So like a person is misinformed, so wouldn't that be coming in the category of ignorance then? Like how do we know that they are actually envious? They may be just misinformed that they are acting in that way.
If they are misinformed, there will be a mood of humility to be informed. And if you have great strength, then you may try. But the Mayavadi philosophers are not misinformed. They have studied Shastra. They have extraordinary knowledge, or I shouldn't say real knowledge, but they have reference to Shastra. And they will twist Shastra to make their desire look correct. So yes, there are some who are innocently misinformed. Oh, wait a minute. I thought everything is impersonal. Is that not right? Yes, now you have a forum to speak. But one who is preaching this philosophy, Krishna is impersonal, and let me prove it to you on the basis of Shastra. And they'll recite Sanskrit after Sanskrit after Sanskrit. And if you don't know, you'll be like, oh, I don't know. Sounds pretty logical. Okay? So you're right. Some may be innocently knowing or thinking this. Then they can be saved. But we must ourselves be very strong in our faith and our knowledge, right? The two qualifications for our progress. If our faith is pliable and our knowledge is weak, then if we come to hear that, we may become bewildered and lose our understanding. And that is why we must be very careful where and who we hear from. Because until our faith, the Uttama Adhikari, doesn't matter. They can discuss and debate with anybody, because their faith is unbreakable and their knowledge is even more convincing than whatever the Mayavad philosopher may present. So this is the understanding. It's okay. Did I answer your question, Mataji?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. That they have studied the Shastras and knowing that fully well, cognizant of it, and then still denying it. So that is definitely out of something.
Yeah.
That mode is different as compared to ignorance.
Yeah. They're not in a mood to take. They're in a mood to try to give their philosophy. Their philosophy, they have incorrectly studied the Shastra and they want to give. So then you be careful, we be careful not to take, but there's no opportunity to give to them. When someone is interested to take, to receive, then you can give. Then there is some innocence in their knowledge. And many people are innocently misinformed. And yes, we should have great compassion for them and try to help them.
One more question was like, what is this thing that, what is that thing which is missing in those four types of liberation which we are talking about, and then we are talking about Krishna and Vrindavan. So what is that quality which is missing for one to reach that Krishna and Vrindavan as compared to these? I mean, the symptoms might be the same, right? Because both are in the realm of performing kind of devotional service, pure devotional service. Is it like the purest, that is the highest, purest form of devotional service? Then it comes in Krishna and Vrindavan, and this is like progressing towards it?
Well, there's a little bit of a distinction. So, Srila Prabhupada, again, I'll just read the quote. Out of the many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one who is attracted to the original form of the Lord Krishna in Vrindavan is considered to be the foremost first-class devotee. So Krishna resides in Vrindavan. He does not reside in Vaikuntha. As we saw in Nectar of Instruction, the reason Vrindavan on the earthly planet is even higher than Vaikuntha is because Krishna came to Vrindavan on the earthly planet. But he does not go to Vaikuntha. So, again, Prabhupada says, are there many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Right? So you may be worshipping Krishna in the mood of Lord Vishnu or Narayan. So that will take you to the realm of Vaikuntha, because that is your mood of worship. If you're worshipping Krishna as Krishna in his original two-armed form, then that will take you to where he is, in Goloka Vrindavan. So what is the difference? The principal difference is Vaikuntha worship is in the mood of awe and reverence. And in Goloka Vrindavan, the devotional service has no awe and reverence. It is a very informal, intimate relationship. And so the example is given, of a judge. A judge in the courtroom has relationships with people, with its different, workers and different people in the court. But that relationship is one of a very formal relationship. It's a relationship, but it's very formal. That same judge, when he goes home, has relationships. But those relationships are very informal, very, and you can say more deeper. The relationship is more deeper because it's informal, it's more intimate. The wife, the children, the friends, and the home interact with the judge very differently than the folks in the courtroom. Both are interacting with the same person, but the mood of the interaction is very different. So we know that the judge at home is exhibiting its full personality. Whereas in a courtroom, it is a little bit more reserved. Right? So Srila Prabhupada would tell us that, Krishna is at home in Vrindavan. Like that judge is at home experience. Krishna is at home in Vrindavan. He's in the office performing various activities in other forms. Right? So that is the principal difference. Is what is my mood in which I want to serve Krishna? Do I want to serve him in the mood of awe and reverence? Then okay, no problem. It is great. It is serving the Supreme Lord in pure bhakti. So we should not minimize the servants in Vaikuntha Loka. It is extraordinary, very high. And then from that, there's even a higher realm, which is serving Krishna at home, in his home, in a very free from awe and reverence. And that is enabled by Krishna's Yoga Maya potency, who covers one's understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So, does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yeah, thank you very much. The answer is complete. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So if not, we'll end here. And next week we'll be discussing chapters 5 and 6. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.